You've found the next chapter of The Iron Rebel, a military sci-fi saga of war, exile, and political deception. If that sounds like your kind of story, hit subscribe and give this video a like. It helps the story reach new rebels like you. Chapter 7. Departure. To some, the Grand Council's decision was a victory for justice, a necessary step to preserve the democratic principles of the Confederation. To others, it was a dangerous concession to populist outrage, a betrayal of a man who had sacrificed everything for the survival of humanity. For Marcius Kane, it was nothing short of an execution in all but name. In the privacy of her opulent estate, Velora Kane prowled the grand study like a caged predator. The soft glow of holographic screens displayed the latest broadcasts, each replaying the damning footage of Marcius's condemnation and the Council's ruling. Her carefully composed facade, honed over decades of political maneuvering, was fracturing under the weight of her fury.
"This is a travesty," she hissed, her sharp eyes flashing as they landed on her son.
Marcius sat in the corner of the room, his broad shoulders hunched, his face a mask of simmering rage. His dark uniform, now stripped of insignia, bore the grime of recent travels, but he seemed oblivious to his disheveled state. "You gave them everything, Marcius. Your loyalty, your victories, your blood. And this is how they repay you." Marcius's voice, low and bitter, cut through the tense silence like a blade. "They didn't just betray me, Mother. They betrayed the Confederation." His words carried the weight of disillusionment, each syllable laced with the venom of a man who had witnessed his life's work undone instantly. Volara's steps faltered, her fury momentarily giving way to something softer. She crossed the room with measured grace and knelt before him, her hands resting lightly on his knees. The fire in her eyes remained, but her tone softened, becoming almost maternal. "Listen to me," she said, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "This exile is not the end. You are my son, and no council decree will change that. You must remain vigilant. Watch, wait, and when the time comes, you will rise again. This Confederation needs you, Marcius, even if they're too blind to see it now." His jaw tightened, the muscles flexing beneath his skin. He turned his gaze toward the floor, his thoughts a storm of anger and betrayal. Though well-intentioned, his mother's words offered little solace. The sting of humiliation and the deep cut of abandonment burned too fiercely. "They'll never let me rise again," he said finally, his voice a low growl. "They've taken everything that made me who I am. My rank, my command, my name. What's left?" Volara's grip on his knees tightened, her sharp nails digging into the fabric of his trousers. "You are what's left," she said fiercely. "Your mind, your strength, your resolve. Those cowards in the Council have made a grave mistake, Marcius. They think they've silenced you, but they've only delayed the inevitable. Use this time to plan, to gather your strength. When the time is right, you'll return. And when you do, you'll be unstoppable." For a moment, the room fell silent, the weight of her conviction hanging heavy in the air. Marcius lifted his head, meeting her gaze. In her eyes, he saw not just ambition, but a fierce determination that mirrored his own. It was enough to kindle a small spark of resolve within him, though the fire of his anger still burned hot. "Perhaps," he said at last, his voice distant. "But for now, I'm nothing more than a man in exile." Volara stood, her expression hardening once more. "Exile is only a state of being, Marcius. Not a destiny. Remember that." She turned away, her flowing gown trailing behind her as she moved toward the holographic screens. The images of protests and political commentary played on, but her focus was elsewhere, her mind already working on the following steps to reclaim her son's honor. Marcius remained seated, his thoughts churning. Betrayal and anger warred within him, but beneath it all, the faintest ember of determination began to glow. His mother was right about one thing: exile was not the end. But what came next would be his decision and his alone. The day of his departure arrived with grim finality. Velora Prime's central spaceport, typically bustling with energy, was subdued, its usual hum replaced by an eerie stillness. The early morning haze clung to the air, diffusing the muted light of the red giant star. A small crowd gathered, their faces a mix of curiosity, pity, and disdain, as they waited to witness the departure of the Confederation's once-revered hero. Flanked by a contingent of solemn guards, Kane strode toward the waiting transport ship. His stripped uniform was a stark reminder of his fall from grace, the absence of his insignia glaringly apparent against the stark fabric. His boots echoed against the cold metal floor of the terminal, each step measured and deliberate, a show of defiance in the face of humiliation. Media drones hovered at a respectful distance, their lenses capturing every moment for the galaxy to witness. The spectacle of his exile was not to be missed. As Kane approached the boarding ramp, he saw a familiar figure standing at the base. Senator Tullis Grev, his expression etched with weariness and sorrow, waited silently. The guards halted as Tullis raised a hand, his voice low but commanding. "Give us a moment." The guards exchanged glances but stepped back, granting the two men a private exchange. "Marcius," Grev began, his voice steady but carrying an undertone of urgency. "Don't let this consume you. The Confederation, it's flawed, yes, but it's worth saving. You've been a soldier all your life. You know battles are rarely won without setbacks." Kane met his gaze, his own eyes burning with bitterness. "Setbacks? This isn't a setback, Tullis. This is treachery. They've taken everything from me. My rank, my honor, my purpose." "No," Grev countered firmly, stepping closer. "They've taken your rank and position, but not your purpose. That's something no one can take unless you let them. You still have a choice, Marcius. You can let this anger destroy you, or you can channel it into something greater. Don't let Vale and Tal win by becoming the monster they paint you as." Kane turned his gaze toward the looming transport ship, its angular silhouette contrasting against the brightening sky. "You speak of purpose, Tullis, but purpose without power is meaningless. They've ensured I have neither." "You're wrong," Grev said softly, his tone almost pleading. "Power isn't just titles or uniforms. It's what you choose to do, even when the odds are against you. It's the impact you make despite everything stacked against you. Remember that." For a moment, Kane hesitated, his gaze flickering between Grev and the ship. The weight of the senator's words pressed heavily on him, but his bitterness was a stubborn flame, refusing to be extinguished. Without a word, he stepped past Grev, ascending the boarding ramp with measured precision. The shadows of the ship's interior swallowed him, leaving the senator standing alone. The engines of the transport roared to life, their deep guttural hum reverberating through the terminal. The small crowd remained silent, their eyes fixed on the ship as it lifted off, its form shrinking into the vast expanse of the sky. The streak of its engines faded, leaving only a thin contrail that disappeared into the ether. Inside the cramped confines of the transport, Kane sat by a narrow viewport, staring out at the stars. His swirling emotions, anger, betrayal, and a faint, simmering determination warred for dominance. The destination, Eris Nexus, loomed in his mind. A desolate mining colony on the edges of Confederation space, it was a place for those the galaxy wished to forget. The transport ship faded into the blackness of space, leaving behind a divided Confederation and a man who would one day return to reclaim what was taken from him. This chapter of the Iron Rebel comes to a close, but the war is far from over. If the story spoke to you, leave a like. It fuels the rebellion. And if you haven't yet, subscribe. New episodes drop every week. Until next time, stay sharp, stay defiant.